When Tom Aspinall clutched his face in agony at UFC 321, Michael Bisping didn't just see a no contest, he saw his own nightmare replayed. The one-eyed former champion reacted instantly, warning fans that this wasn't just an accident, but a reminder of what almost destroyed his life. To understand his words, you need to know what it's like to fight half-blind, and why Bisping says Aspinall's scare should change the sport forever. When the accidental double eye poke stopped Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane, the entire arena froze, but one man watching felt it deeper than anyone. Michael Bisping, sitting cageside on the broadcast team, went silent for a moment that seemed to stretch forever. Viewers saw his face drop, his voice tighten. He'd lived this nightmare before. "That's not just an eye poke," he said softly into the mic. "That's your career flashing before your eyes." What fans witnessed as an unfortunate accident, Bisping experienced as a flashback. The camera cut to replays of Gane's fingers grazing Aspinall's eye, but Bisping couldn't watch. Later, on his Believe You Me podcast, he admitted it made him feel physically sick. To most commentators, it was an analysis problem. To him, it was déjà vu of the worst kind. A reminder of how one misjudged strike can change a fighter's life forever. When the doctor waved off the fight, Bisping's commentary turned from professional to personal. "People don't realize how fast it happens," he said. "You think it's a sting, and then the world goes dark." His words hung over the broadcast like a warning. Aspinall's night had ended in confusion, but for Bisping, the danger wasn't confusion. It was memory. In 2013, inside a cage in Brazil, Michael Bisping's world literally went black. A single left head kick from Vitor Belfort tore the retina in his right eye. He tried to shake it off, convinced it was temporary. It wasn't. Within weeks, his vision deteriorated, the colors faded, the depth disappeared. Doctors told him the retina was detached, that more trauma could destroy the eye completely. But quitting wasn't in his vocabulary. Bisping hid the injury, sparred with one eye closed, and told no one but his closest team. When the UFC booked him again, he said yes, because in his mind, admitting weakness meant ending his dream. He fought 5 more years half-blind, earning wins over Anderson Silva, Dan Henderson, and eventually capturing the middleweight title in 2016. To the public, he was the loudmouthed warrior. Privately, he was a man living in fear of total blindness. That's why seeing Aspinall cover his face triggered something primal. The pain, the panic, the uncertainty, it all came flooding back. Bisping knew exactly what was racing through the Brit's mind in those 5 minutes before the stoppage. Is it permanent? Will I ever see right again? After years of secrecy, Bisping finally revealed the truth on his podcast. He'd been fighting with one working eye. The revelation shocked fans who'd watched him outstrike legends without realizing he was effectively blind on his right side. He even removed his prosthetic eye on camera, a chilling, almost symbolic act of honesty that stripped away the bravado. Training had been a daily gamble. He'd lost depth perception, so jabs and kicks came at him like blurred flashes. He learned to gauge distance by instinct and sound, not sight. Sparring partners were warned never to hit the right side of his face, yet accidents happened. Every session carried the risk of darkness, permanent, irreversible. In his autobiography, Quitters Never Win, Bisping wrote, "I fought blind because I loved it, but it nearly cost me everything." That line would echo through MMA culture, reshaping how fighters viewed toughness. The man once mocked for trash talk had become a voice for vulnerability. So when he watched Tom Aspinall's vision vanish on live television, it wasn't just commentary, it was a confession. He saw the same fear he once hid behind jokes and bravado. And in that moment, every word he spoke came not from analysis, but from empathy, the kind only a fighter who lost an eye could truly understand. As the replay of Cyril Gane's extended fingers looped on the broadcast, Michael Bisping turned away from the monitor. The expression on his face said everything, disbelief mixed with a kind of haunted recognition. Later he explained, "You see something like that, and you don't see a fight ending, you see a career possibly ending. I've been there." He described it as a physical reaction, his stomach dropping, his hands trembling slightly under the desk. When the camera caught Aspinall covering his right eye, Bisping froze. That was his side, his injury, his story replaying a decade later on another Brit's face. "I knew exactly what he was feeling," he said on his podcast later that night. "You're not thinking about titles or fans or rankings. You're thinking, can I still see?" What made the moment worse was the silence that followed. The crowd didn't boo out of anger. They were scared. And Bisping could feel that fear because he'd lived it. He explained that even a brief poke can slice the cornea or detach a retina, injuries that don't heal with ice and rest. That's how it starts, he warned, his voice cracking slightly on the broadcast. One wrong angle, one wrong moment, and you're never the same. To millions watching, it was analysis. To Bisping, it was trauma resurfacing in real time, a flashback disguised as commentary. In the days that followed, Bisping doubled down on his message. He reminded fans that eye pokes aren't freak accidents, they're an ongoing crisis. Since 2015, more than 30 UFC fights have been paused or ended because of them. The culprits are technical. Open finger gloves that encourage fighters to extend their hands for distance control. We teach you to post and measure range, Bisping explained. But when adrenaline hits, fingers flare out and eyes pay the price. He called for redesigning the gloves, something fighters like Justin Gaethje and Bilal Muhammad have pushed for years. A more curved glove, he said, could prevent extension without limiting grappling. We can evolve the sport, he urged, or we can keep pretending this isn't ruining people's lives. During a segment on BT Sport, he went further. Fans love knockouts, but they don't see the long game. Eye injuries don't go away. You can come back from a broken jaw, a torn ACL. You don't come back from losing an eye. His tone wasn't angry. It was pleading. For once, the notoriously tough Bisping wasn't promoting bravado. He was demanding compassion from referees, coaches, and fighters themselves. The Aspinall incident reignited the conversation he'd been having for years, that bravery without awareness isn't toughness. It's tragedy waiting to repeat. When cameras zoomed in on Tom Aspinall during the timeout, his face told the story of every fighter who's ever lost vision, mid-fight, disbelief, panic, denial. Bisping later said, "When he said, 'I can't see,' I felt my heart drop. That's the sentence that haunted me for years." He broke down exactly what happens in that moment. The eye floods with tears, the world blurs into white light, and your brain refuses to accept it. "You think it's temporary," Bisping said. "You blink, rub, tell yourself it'll clear, until it doesn't. That confusion is followed by dread, the realization that your weapon, your tool, your career might be slipping away." For Bisping, the parallel hit even harder because both men are British, both respected technicians, both seen as polite ambassadors in a brutal sport. Seeing Aspinall, someone he's praised for years, hunched in pain on the biggest stage, felt personal. "He's like the next generation of us," Bisping told TalkSport. "To watch that happen to him, I wanted to jump in there myself." It wasn't just empathy, it was projection. One man seeing his past in another's present. And that, more than any statistic or analysis, made his reaction resonate with millions watching at home. When Cyril Gane realized what had happened, he didn't celebrate or raise his hand. He walked straight to Aspinall's stool, bent down, and apologized. Cameras caught him saying, "I'm sorry, brother. I didn't mean it." Bisping, still on commentary, nodded in approval. Later, he told BT Sport, "That's what class looks like. It's easy to play the hero when you win. It's harder to show respect when no one does." For Bisping, that moment represented the evolution of the sport. He remembered an era when fighters were told to walk it off, when pain and pride mattered more than empathy. "In my day, you'd get poked, the crowd would boo, and you'd fight half-blind because quitting wasn't an option," he said. "But that's not bravery, that's stupidity." He praised both men for how they handled the chaos. Aspinall refusing to lash out, Gane refusing to justify himself. To Bisping, that mutual restraint showed maturity far beyond the octagon. "They treated each other like human beings," he said, "and that's rare when adrenaline's still running." That clip of Bisping's voice, calm but shaking with emotion, went viral. "Protect each other, even in war," he said. A single line that summed up the heart of combat sports, that even in the most violent arenas, respect remains sacred. To understand why Bisping's words hit so hard, you have to understand what the injury truly cost him. Years after that fateful night in Brazil, he still wakes up sometimes and instinctively reaches for the eye that no longer works. He's spoken about walking into doors, missing handshakes, struggling to drive at night. The loss wasn't just physical, it was identity. For a man who once relied on timing and precision, losing depth perception was like asking a pianist to play without hearing notes. Every strike, every slip was a guess, he said in his documentary Bisping, The Michael Bisping Story. "I'd throw punches and hope they landed where I thought they were. The anxiety was constant, the fear of being exposed, of giving his opponents an opening that could end everything. He endured multiple surgeries, eventually replacing the damaged eye with a prosthetic. Behind the camera lights and podcast microphones, the scars are still visible, but he uses them as teaching tools now. "If my mistake saves someone else's eye, that's a win," he told BBC Sport. That's why, when he warned viewers about the risk Aspinall faced, it wasn't dramatization, it was testimony. A man who paid the price trying to stop another from doing the same. In the hours after UFC 321, Bisping's comments spread across every social platform. Fighters, fans, and even medical professionals echoed his message. The line that resonated most was simple: "You can win belts back, you can't win your sight back." It wasn't a catchy quote. It was truth carved from experience. Bisping has always been a complex figure, loud, sarcastic, unfiltered. But that night, the swagger faded. What remained was honesty. He didn't lecture Aspinall or condemn gain. He spoke to the sport itself, reminding it that toughness without caution leads nowhere. His reaction turned the no contest into something bigger, a moment of collective reflection for an entire generation of fighters who grew up idolizing invincibility. Aspinall's story will continue, but Bisping's warning lingers behind it. Every time a fighter extends an open hand to gauge distance, fans will remember this night, and they'll remember the man who once fought blind, begging others not to do the same.